Hey everybody and welcome to another episode of BacklogBusters, where every other Monday I'm busting out my gaming backlog one video at a time and letting you know if after all these years, these games are worth playing today. In this episode, we take control of the most untrustworthy animal possible in Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Why did I decide to go back to a platformer that's old enough to drink now, especially when absolutely no one in the comments suggested this game? Well, the main reason is that I only picked up my first PS2 console last year, which has a whole wealth of exclusive games that I've never experienced before. Then that one's laser broke, and I recently bought another thicker PS2 to replace it. Also, I figured a PS2 platformer was about the furthest jump from the last game I finished missed. It might be a nice change of pace for y'all watching. Since I grew up watching PS2 games from afar, I always grouped the Sly Cooper, Ratchet & Clank, and Jak and Daxter games together as just top-tier PS2 platformers, even though I'd played none of these and had nothing to go on. In the years since, I've only ever heard people bring up Ratchet & Clank and the Jak and Daxter games as ones needing sequels or remasters, so I've started to wonder, why isn't Sly Cooper brought up in the same breath as those other ones? Also, I am technically playing this on the PS3 because the Sly collection was cheaper than buying all PS2 games individually, so before my reasoning starts to completely unravel, let's talk about the history of this game. Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus was released for the PlayStation 2 on September 23, 2002 in North America, then on January 17, 2003 in Europe, where it apparently was renamed to the extremely generic title, Sly Raccoon, which seems like more a description of raccoons in general rather than, the name of the main character. It was published by Sony Computer Entertainment and hit the PS2 in the second year of its life, which even without Sly was a stacked year for the PS2, with the first Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy X, Dark Cloud, Ratchet & Clank, all releasing that same year. Sly 1 was developed by Sucker Punch Productions, who had only released one game before this, Rocket Robot on Wheels for the N64 in 1999, which is too hard to find and too expensive, so let's just move on. Even as a relative newcomer to the industry, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus went on to land an 86 on Metacritic and sell almost 1 million copies. But with so many other heavy-hitting games releasing that same year, Sly 1 ended up in several runner-up awards and nomination slots. Even without a bunch of Shiny Game of the Year awards though, this success allowed Sucker Punch to follow up with a sequel, Sly 2 Band of Thieves in 2004, then Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves in 2005, both of which did quite well for the studio, who then moved on to another trilogy of games with Infamous, Infamous 2, Infamous Second Son, along with 2 big DLC expansions to this series of games that I would very much like to play through someday. Most recently though, Sucker Punch released Ghost of Tsushima, which I would also like to play through someday. All this to say, Sucker Punch has continued to put out critically and commercially successful games since that first Sly Cooper game. So let's find out what made that first game so special and led to Sucker Punch having years of successful releases, starting with the things I liked. Immediately, I was struck by how good everything looked in this game. Sure, I'm playing on the PS3 version that's got a few more pixels, but this holds up extremely well visually thanks to the beautiful cel-shaded art style with the thick outlines that make the characters really stand out. Everything moves and animates just as well, with Sly's gently swaying tail, the little spin right before he lands with a balanced pose, and with all 3D platformers of the time, a good level complete animation is extremely important, and Sly does not disappoint. Then you've got the music and sound effects that vary things up with you hearing Sly's footsteps as he tiptoes around, then quickly ramps up when alarms trigger and combat starts, all of which creates a really dynamic sounding game, not only level to level, but in every moment and encounter in this game. But you're not alone on this adventure, as after the Batman-like opening takes place, you meet your 2 best friends, Bentley, the classic nerdy hacker with thick glasses, and Murray, the muscle, who's a great driver but not really that helpful on foot, both of whom assist you on heists. Sly and his friends are on a mission to return all the pages stolen from the Thievius Raccoonus, a book passed down through the generations of Sly's family and documenting years of tips and tricks and useful abilities for the master thief. Bentley and Murray will hop into the field from time to time to help you, but mostly they just chime in with helpful tips and comments, and even though the character tropes here are kinda generic,
your plan is flawed,
and the voice acting is a little exaggerated, the lighthearted banter and conversations between Sly and his friends really does help endear them to you and fill you in on their characters and how they interact together. All of these pages that you're tracking down have been stolen by the Fiendish Five, a group of villains you'll take on one by one and act as the worlds of this game, with every single one of these villains also getting an origin story that introduces them with a comic booky cutscene that documents their descent into crime. Every part of this game charmed me. The music, story, characters. Even when I died, the death animation left me with a smile on my face. This game just has a ton of character, and I'm really impressed at how Sucker Punch put all this together in such a fleshed out, interesting, and polished world in the first game in this series. Just based on the title here, it seemed like there would be more going on in Sly Cooper than just a traditional platformer. Thankfully, that wasn't just all advertising, as while you won't be planning and executing a heist, which I also would have enjoyed, you will be using a mix of stealth and action as you play through the game. You've got the normal jump, double jump, and attack moves, but once Sly's master thief senses kick in, you'll see little blue stars over interactable objects, which allow you to balance on thin points, walk across tight ropes, shimmy along ledges, and hide from guards. Even after being taught a lot of these moves, I still figured the second you get spotted, it's just going to turn into any old action platformer out there. Stealth would be optional, but not really required. But no, this feels like a true mix between the genres, as stealth is strongly encouraged, if not required, for most of this game. But even if you've never enjoyed something like Splinter Cell, I think there might be something here for you, as all the enemies have shining lights indicating where they can see and what they can see. Enemy patterns are pretty simple, checkpoints are frequent, and they've cut the most complicated and tedious mechanics out, like hiding in shadows or alerting guards with noise. This game also does a really good job at introducing and teaching you those stealth light mechanics, like how you'll see turrets take out anything that walks on this carpet. But you can hop in a barrel to protect yourself, although you'll soon find out that enemies are smarter, and if they see you moving, they'll attack you, so you've got to stay still when they're looking your way. And sure, in a lot of these cases I could run past the things in the level, but you'll encounter obstacles that require the barrel later and need to figure out a way to progress with its slow movement and lack of jumps. Some sections are guarded by spotlights, not enemies, but there's always a breakable alarm that's at the end of one of these platforming challenges, which once broken deactivates the lights and alarm and lets you just walk through and collect any items you missed. These twists on the platforming and the smartly simplified stealth made for a very different feeling game that uses all these mechanics you may have seen before in very interesting ways. I also appreciated that Sly Cooper takes the time to make everything feel like it actually fits in this world. They don't just put a wire over spinning blades for you to climb on and call it good enough. They add little frays to the wire which pull double duty of showing the player where to stop and get the timing right, but also ground it in the world, as yes, this would cause the wire or wire casing to fray over time. There are other details I appreciate, like how Sly Cooper takes the master thief idea and mixes it in with a wide variety of levels in interesting ways. Sure, you've got the laser floor from every spy and heist movie out there, and that's still a stressful and fun thing to navigate. But later when you visit a casino, that same idea is translated to a roulette wheel where landing on certain numbers will trigger the alarm. Or how with most levels you'll be breaking a key out of a case that looks like it's reserved for precious jewels and diamonds. But later in the swamp, when you're dealing with magic-wielding enemies, you need to go snuff out all the candles in their ritual before you can access that same style of key. Even some of the more gamey concepts, like Bentley marking the level entrances while roaming around the hub areas, are explained as holographic projections that Bentley has put there for Sly's benefit, not the players. And when you travel to a world that heavily features fireworks, a simple platform that raises and lowers is replaced with one that's powered by those fireworks. I was impressed through the entire game with how they took this basic thief theme and actually made a more casual stealth game that's fun and snappy. But they didn't stop there, and they pulled the same theme into the world detail and also grounded everything in its own cartoonish logic, but it makes the world feel more whole. And everything was just so well thought out and intertwined that I felt like this game was one step away from telling me the camera is controlled by a Lakitu holding a fishing rod. Everyone knows it's an unspoken law of platformers that levels must be filled with some small bouncing items for you to collect, and depending on the game, it can either be too difficult to collect these items, there could be too many things to collect, and or what you're collecting can be totally meaningless and not really have any benefit other than a number going up on the side of your screen. So obviously when I picked up one of 20 clues in the first level, I was skeptical about why I needed to collect all of these. It turns out, if you collect all the clues on a given level, Bentley can decode the vault combination, and each of these vaults contain a power-up of some kind, which are actually really substantial upgrades, with your first vault unlocking a dive attack. Then later ones unlock things like the ability to control time and even prevent pitfalls and drownings altogether.
Briefly defy gravity.
Sometimes you'll only find an upgrade to your binoculars, or binocucom as Bentley calls it, which allows you to search for hidden clues that you may have missed the first time through a level. Once I realized though how important these were to expand Sly's powers and moves, I tried not to leave a level until I'd found every single clue and collected the power-up. This loop was really fun, and while I do not at all consider myself a completionist, these power-ups were essential because in addition to expanding your moves, there are some things about this game that felt like rough edges, and they were smoothed out by unlocking a new move sometimes. Now there is a negative to this. Some of these are hidden in frustrating ways, like inside of what look like static objects that you need to break apart. Some levels don't let you backtrack through to find missed clues, as the entrance to an area may have been cut off as you went through the level, so you'll have to restart the whole level if you miss something early on. On the other hand, some levels place the vault at the very start, which forces you to reach the exit, collect the last clue, and then turn around backtracking through the whole level to reach the vault at the start. But surely you can use the Binocucon power-ups I mentioned earlier, and that might ease some of these frustrations. Well, this is the only power that isn't a one-time unlock, and you'll need to unlock this for each new world. According to the internet, this is always the third vault in a given world, so if you can't find all the clues on 2 levels first, you'll never be able to use it, which just seems like a strange and arbitrary decision to me. The other odd thing I found after completing the game is that the order of every power-up in these vaults is set. So your second power-up will always be the roll ability, no matter if you unlock the second vault on the first world or the last world. And because of this, there's no way to pick and choose which upgrades are useful to you, and how you'd like to customize your Sly Cooper. If you want the last power-up, it's all or nothing. This wouldn't be that disappointing if I hadn't experienced what a difference a power like Fast makes. This power-up speeds up everything in the game, like Sly's run speed so you can move through a level quicker, which is very helpful for backtracking for a clue you missed. It also speeds up enemies, which yes, can make attacks hard to dodge, but the biggest benefit is that it speeds up their patrols. Because as much as this game simplifies stealth, the tedious aspects of stealth games do show up occasionally, like standing and waiting for a guard to look the other way. Well, with Fast, you can fast forward that animation and not wait as long. This is a lifesaver with how linear these levels are sometimes and how much waiting you'll do when replaying a level multiple times because of deaths or several attempts at finding a clue. I just would have loved the chance to pick and choose which power you unlocked, and I feel bad for people who either don't want to collect all the clues or are unable to find them all, because they will miss out on some of the most useful upgrades in the game and probably end up a little more frustrated with a basic vanilla Sly Cooper. After planning and executing a successful heist, everyone, including Sly and his crew, needs some time to relax. And what better way than with some lighthearted minigames sprinkled around each world? You'll pilot boats, killing piranhas to power your flamethrower, play a twin-stick shooter in a hovercraft that's just laying around, and sometimes you'll just murder chickens just because. These are fine, and they did give a nice little change of pace, but they feel more like a distraction to me, as I was on the hunt for clues and power-ups, and none of these levels give you a power-up at the end, so I was never that excited to complete these levels. The nice thing about them is that Murray finally gets to leave the Slymobile and actually do something. Granted, one of the minigames with him in it is you sniping enemies while he just cowers in fear, which is an instant failure if you accidentally shoot him. Whoops. The other main Murray minigame are these races, which I thought were surprisingly difficult, and as with any of these minigames, you have to complete them, no coming in second or third or just skipping them altogether. Plus, with the other racers seemingly randomly picking up boosts that I need to win these races, I had to replay these several times to practice and eventually get first, when in the back of my mind I just kept thinking, I'm not going to use these skills on any other levels. I do appreciate that they demonstrate how the team works together, and it's cool to see the other roles these characters have. I'm just not convinced this was the most exciting way to do it. The boss battles have a similar level of minigame-esque variety, with a top-down kind of Pac-Man maze, a Star Fox-like shooting section later in the game, and a full-on rhythm game showing up. And while I do appreciate that they tried to introduce different concepts and ideas for these bosses, a rhythm game that has background music with a different beat than the timing of the buttons you need to press, and is a 3-stage boss fight where one hit can send you back to the start, quickly had the novelty wear off. I just kind of wish I got to use the abilities and skills I've been building up this whole game on the bosses themselves. I thought that, and then I fought one boss that does let you run and jump and hit things with your cane. That wasn't the most exciting experience either, so maybe they're onto something with the variety in the boss battles. Maybe with some tweaking in a sequel, these sections could be really enjoyable, but most of the time, even if I enjoyed the change of pace, I just kind of wanted to get back to the sneaking around, collecting clues, and unlocking powers. Now, with all that in mind, how did I feel about this game overall, and would I recommend Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus as a game that should be on your backlog? Maybe. If you like the look of this game, the characters appeal to you, or the world looks interesting, this is a fun and lighthearted quest for payback that you can really get behind. Also, if in the past you've liked the idea of stealth games more than the games themselves, this also creates a really inventive and well done mashup between the traditional action platformer and a stealth game. Though I'll just caution that unless you're looking to collect all the clues and open up every vault, you could be missing out on some really nice quality of life upgrades that are weirdly locked behind 3 digits. Also, you might love or hate the minigames here, depending on if they click with you and if it's a fun change of pace or feels more like a random distraction. I enjoyed most of my time with this game and was glad to finally see that Sly Cooper does differentiate itself from a lot of other platformers out there. And as with a lot of firsts in a series, I'm very excited in what a second game might bring to the table. Could we have more open areas with maybe more stealth options, more fun minigames? I'm not sure what to expect, but I am excited to see what's next for Sly and his friends. And I'll throw out my normal message. My opinion on this game is not meant to tarnish any fond memories you have of playing this, and if you love or still love this game, please tell me why in the comments below. I'd love to talk more about your experience and the parts that I really liked. If you'd like to play or replay Sly Cooper for yourself, you've got a lot of old games that you can buy secondhand. One route is tracking down the original PS2 game, which hasn't skyrocketed like a lot of older, fondly remembered games, especially if you go with the greatest hits version. Then you've got the collections on PS3 and Vita. And as much as playing this game on the Vita is novel, and I tried to do, these tiny sticks that I have not gotten used to make the race sections nearly impossible for me. So you've got the PS3 collection, which I think is probably the best place to play it, where all this footage is from, and seems like a really good remaster of the game, but sadly you can't download a version of this Sly collection anywhere but on the PS3. Now, what you technically can do is upgrade to the horribly named PlayStation Plus Premium subscription and stream the PS3 version of the Sly collection onto your PS4 or PS5. Now, I've not attempted this on the PlayStation consoles. I have done streaming on the Xbox, and it worked better than I expected when I was playing in very ideal conditions. But I just wish there was an actual PS4 or PS5 port of this game you could buy that allowed you to play this game on your physical console. But that's it for this episode of Backlog Busters. Have you played this first Sly game? What did you think? Is this a must-play game that deserves to be on others' backlogs? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to talk more about this game. Also, let me know if you have any suggestions for a game that I should clear up my backlog next, and I'll work to make a video on it. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. That helps me a lot. And if you'd like to see more, tap the subscribe. And if you want to get alerted with every new video, hit the bell icon. And as always, thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.